Here are the proven steps you need to follow right now if you're trying to get a loan, startup business loan with low documentation for your LLC. Step number one, boss. I want you to know the requirements of any LLC startup loan. It doesn't matter whether you're looking for, let's say, a low doc, no doc, something in between. All LLC startup loans have standard requirements that you got to fulfill if you're trying to get a massive amount, right? So let's just go through this. There are five of them, and I really want you to pay attention here. So number one, you need to have a business plan. I don't care. Don't let people razzle dazzle you, trying to tell you you don't need a business plan. They're lying to you. They're lying to your face. I'm telling you, you need a business plan, especially if you're a startup. You know why? Because you have no proven record of operational excellence. In other words, you're new. Nobody knows you. You're a new kid on the block. How are you going to convince a lender to give you money if you don't have a way to articulate your business vision? And the articulation of that business vision happens in a business plan. All right. So now I want you to write something compelling here. And I'm not asking you to go on the internet and trying to download those cheap ass templates and trying to come here and just change the logo and change the name here and there and just kind of customize your business plan. No, I want you to write for me a real business plan that talks about your business and that is it's about your business. You have to write it from scratch. Now, if you can't do it, you can outsource that thing, not a problem. And then the second thing is you need to have statements. Within statements, we have financial statements. So your startup's financial statements. So here we're speaking about projections. And then you have bank statements. Okay, your business bank statements. That's the second thing. The third thing is you need to have business registration documents for your LLC. So things like articles of organization and a certificate of good standing, among other things. The fourth thing is you need to have the EIN. So your EIN is really important. If right now you don't have an EIN, boss, I want you to, once you're done with this show, I want you to go on the IRS's website and I want you to really register for an EIN real fast. This is really important. And the last thing I want you to think about is your personal credit score and reports. Okay. So your FICO score and reports, just make sure that, the lender is not going to ask you this because they can check it independently. But you yourself should actually get a copy of your credit reports so you have a clear idea of where you stand on the FICO spectrum. Very important. Step number two, you got to have a plan B in case your LLC loan is denied. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. Really, it's just a pleasure to have you here. Wonderful to have you here. So I'm just talking to you about LLC startup business loan, low documentation, no personal guarantee, giant approval. Let's talk about that, right? Now, you got to have a plan B in case your LLC loan is denied. You know why? Because the thing is that when your loan is denied, you will be emotionally down. So it's better to think about a plan B while you're still, let's say, you're still rational. Because once you get denied, your ass is denied. You will take it very personally, emotionally. You're not going to be in a good mood or in a good place. That's why we tell our clients, and we've been testing this strategy successfully for the last 35 years. So basically, before you apply for a business loan or a startup business loan for that matter, you have a plan B beforehand. Okay, so you actually plan things when you are quiet in your head. So you can say, okay, what are the alternative startup financing arrangement? If I don't get this loan, what am I going to do? Because I can't unfold my business. I need to soldier on. I need to push forward. Well, you can think about investors, equity investors. So instead of thinking about borrowing, you can ask outside investors to come and just inject cash into your business. Okay. And you can also ask friends and family to finance your LLC startup. You can also try crowdfunding. Now, when we talk about crowdfunding, we have platforms such as Kiva, we have Indiegogo, we have Kickstarter. Those are pretty good and they are proven. They have proven models that will allow you to actually raise the funds that you need. Okay. You can try peer-to-peer lending platforms. Okay. Those lending platforms allow you to actually get money from private citizens. So you have private individuals who are lending to you. So this is kind of cool too. The good thing about that is that nobody's checking your FICO score. So if you're worried about your FICO score being decimated further, this is a good option. And then you can also try an SBA loan. Now, SBA loans are kind of hard for startups, LLC startups, but you can get them. You just have to package your application properly. So here you have it, okay? You got to think about which option will work for you even before you apply for your LLC startup business loan. So that, again, as I said, if it doesn't work out, if things don't go your way, you know you have a backup plan. You have a plan B. And this is really quintessential. Step number 3, you got to establish why your LLC startup is actually borrowing. By the way, son, daughter, I just want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We're having a conversation about LLC startup business loan, no personal guarantee, low documentation. Okay, you have to establish why your LLC is borrowing, because the whole thing is, do you need cash for inventory? Do you need cash for let's say payroll? Do you need cash for working capital? Talk to me about that. And are you currently in discussion with a client, and that client is so important, and you know this is your first client, and you need the inventory to sort of produce this product, or to manufacture this product, or you need something to deliver for the client, because this client is your first client and your most important client. Why do you want to borrow? This question is important. And so lenders will ask you anyway. So if you don't want to answer me, you'll answer the lender anyway before they give you the money, right? So when we talk about what you have to establish why you're borrowing, you got to answer, why does your LLC borrow? Why does your LLC need this money? And how much money does your LLC need? I'll speak about the quantity later on, but it's really important. Okay, now you can use the cash for a constellation of things. And so you can use the cash to expand into new products, services, and marketplaces. You can use the cash to increase your inventory, your materials, just because you're trying to meet customer demand, right? This is important. And again, remember that you got to actually spend money to make money. You got to get the cash somewhere to get the inventory to be able to deliver to the customer. You can also get the cash to invest in employees, assets, or equipment, refinance existing debts for better terms and interest rates, increase your working capital to maximize opportunities, buying or renting real estate. Now, the thing that we talk about when we have a conversation around working capital, especially payroll, is that when we tell all our clients, if you're an LLC and you're looking for a startup loan to cover payroll, the big question is, do you need that many people in the first place? Number one. Number two, if you do, what is the return on an investment? In other words, you need 20 people, okay, but you know you cannot afford them, but you still need them. How long can you keep paying them before they actually deliver? Those are conversations you need to have with your team, with the senior management in your team, so you don't make the mistake that some startups, LLC startups make, and they realize, I just ran out of money. I ain't got nothing anymore. Well, it's because you have not planned properly, boss. Step number 4, you need to say how much your LLC needs to borrow. This is where we get into the quantity aspect of things. The whole thing here is that people telling you, well, I need to borrow. Okay, I ask you right now, you want to borrow, but talk to me about the quantity, how much you need. I'll give you how much you need, but it's not about just like how much you need. How can you actually arrive at a number that is plausible, that is amenable to the lender? And actually, you have two ways of doing this. You have there's something called opportunity needs. So you have there is you can have this. You can do this needs in Excel. This need analysis in Excel. So basically, the opportunity is the reason why you need the loan in the first place. In other words, you see an opportunity in the market and you're trying to seize that opportunity, but your LLC is short of cash. So if your LLC has a liquidity problem, it needs to find out the money somewhere, right? The extra cash. So you do this analysis and you're trying to convince the lender, hey, listen, if you actually give me this cash, I'll actually use it to do a lot of things to be able to seize this opportunity. And this opportunity, if I seize it, it will generate more revenue for me. See, revenue generation should be really important, right? And so that's one option here. The second option here is that you can say, listen, actually in the business plan, there is a section in the business plan called the use of loan proceeds. And part of that use of loan proceeds is your financial projections. In other words, you have to really show to the lender point by point how you arrived at the number. Let's say you want to borrow $75,000. Okay, how did you arrive at $75,000? Well, a lot of things are explained usually in the business plan. So when we talk about a business plan, usually we have you have an executive summary, company description, market analysis, competitive analysis, description of management and organization, a breakdown of your products and services. You talk about marketing plan, sales strategy, and one of the key part is request for funding and financial projections. The reason why I'm just mentioning a business plan is because you need to write a business plan to clarify how much your LLC needs to borrow. You can't just make up the number, okay? And you have to specify what it needs the money for. So you cannot make up a number. Like you have to show the calculus behind your numbers. And this is how you can actually convince a lender to give you the LLC startup business loan, low documentation, no personal guarantee that you need and deserve in the first place. Next thing that you need to do, you need to create a strong foundation for your LLC loan. Okay. By the way, I want to quickly remind everybody of today's conversation. The topic that we're discussing today is LLC startup business loan, low documentation, no personal guarantee, giant approval. We're really trying to be very courageous and optimistic here. We want giant approval. Nobody wants no small ass kind of like loan amounts like $5,000 or $10,000. You can't do anything, wasting your time, wasting your FICO score just for a small amount. Nobody wants that. We want giant amounts. Okay. So what is the foundation here? What am I talking about? So the foundation means that you need to have a set of rules. You need to have a set of documents that actually can convince a lender that you are a strong candidate for an LLC startup business loan. When we talk about low documentation, we're speaking about, at a minimum, financial statements, tax returns, and business plan. That's it. Because a regular loan has a constellation of documents. But if you go for a low doc, the lender is just paying attention to a few things. Some lenders don't even pay attention to anything except the bank statement. And they'll even tell you to connect your bank account to their system, so they can actually rate your inflows and they can see they can see directly your cash inflows and cash outflows. All right, so this is really important. Remember that lenders, they routinely rely on extensive documentation and reports to decide if they want to lend to your LLC. Okay, so they will. When I talk about financial documents, I'm speaking about accounting reports such as balance sheet, profit and loss, cash flow statements, and stockholders' equity. Okay, those are really important, and experts generally don't talk about the last part, stockholders' equity, but it is really quite essential. So they also mention tax returns. Usually is a tax return at the personal level because you are an LLC startup. So this is your first year and you don't have tax returns yet, right? Because next year, when you will be like in year 2, you will no longer be an LLC. You no longer be a startup. My point is what? My point is you need to have tax returns. You got to have financial statements. You need to have a business plan. Let me give you a few pro tips before we close to this conversation. Actually, we have what I want to say here is that there are other helpful factors for the LLC startup loan, and those factors are really important because they really show the lender that you are a legit business. That the person behind the business they know what they're talking about, right? It's all about financial responsibility, but also about reputation. Very important. So what are the several factors that will maximize your chances of getting an LLC startup loan? So you have business licenses and operating permits for your LLC. So if you are in a sector if you're in a sector whereby licensing and permitting is really important, the lender is going to pay attention to that because Absent those elements, you could be fined, you can actually go to jail, and so on and so forth. So it is a legal risk, really, an operational risk also. And so you really have to pay attention to that and make sure that you get the right data to the right lender. So you might want to actually also have your EIN. Also, if you have a strong personal financial history and credit history, those could also help, okay? And a business history and track record that shows how your LLC has survived in the past could be really good. And the reason why is, even though we have a startup LLC, maybe this is not your first time creating an LLC. Okay, you probably have created other LLCs in the past, who knows? And so you have accumulated experience over the years. So the lender wants to make sure that you are putting those pieces of experience to good use, really. And one thing I want to say here is, let me ask you a question. Big decision time, boss. Do you currently have all the appropriate business licenses and permits for your particular store? Talk to me about that. Another question is, if you do, when was the last time you actually renewed them? And also, do you have a certificate of good standing? Because those things are important. Those are other helpful factors for an LLC loan. They do impact your ability to get the loan that you seek and deserve and love anyway. Okay. And one thing I also want to talk to you about is that you are able to constantly change things around, so you know exactly what kind of loan, what kind of LLC loan you are going for. This is important because depending on your situation, depending on whether or not you qualify for the loan in the first place, you can say, you know what, I thought I wanted to have $150,000, but now I'm fine with 75 or 60 or 50. Totally possible. Before I close to this conversation, this select session, I want to say that, in some cases, when we talk about LLC, startup loans, no personal guarantee, if you have a collateral or you offer a personal guarantee, this could help. This goes counter to today's topic, but I'm just saying that a personal guarantee is not always a bad thing. Folks are kind of scared. People are scared about personal guarantee. I understand that because you're trying to preserve your personal assets. But the thing is, if you have a startup and you actually bought somehow some kind of machinery or equipment or office furniture for the startup, you can use those elements for collateral. You don't necessarily have to use your personal assets as collateral. That's important. And one thing you also need to think about is that you have to ask yourself, am I going to be like having this loan for a long time? Would I keep this loan on my books for a long time? In other words, am I optimistic about the future so that my primary business can generate enough cash so that I don't have to carry this for 10 years, this loan? So it's really important to understand that. So collateral is important if needed. A personal guarantee is important if needed. Okay, and some LLC lenders like to file a blanket lien. So a blanket lien means that a lender can lay claim to any or all of your small business or your LLC assets if you default on the loan. So with a blanket lien, you don't need to actually define your collateral upfront, but all of your assets are liable, okay, to be seized and actually sold out to the total value of your LLC loan. So there are consequences. This is why a lot of folks don't like personal guarantee, because this really becomes the lender's prerogative, and it's really nothing that you want to have. So one thing you also need to think about is you always want to talk to the lender firsthand. Make sure that you speak to the lender before you apply. This could be a phone call. This could be an email. This could be a letter. This could be just going to the branch. If you are speaking to a bank or a credit union, just go to a branch and just have a conversation with them, a real conversation with them. You ask questions until they'll answer you. Okay, this is really important. And so this is how you actually solidify your application even before applying. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just talking to you about LLC, startup business loan, no personal guarantee, no personal guarantee, low documentation. Right. So first, you need to know the requirements of any LLC startup loan. Number two, you need to know to have a plan B in case your LLC loan is denied. And so there are alternatives to startup financing. Okay. Always establish why you are borrowing. See how much your LLC needs to borrow. Create a strong foundation for your LLC loans. Thank you.